Turtles have been on this planet for 220 million years. They watched the dinosaurs appear. They watched the dinosaurs disappear. They survived the asteroid that ended the Cretaceous, the volcanic winters, the oxygen crashes, the mass extinctions that erased most of the life on Earth. They were here before the Atlantic Ocean existed. They were here before the Himalayas existed. And somehow, through all of it, they made it. The question nobody really asks is how. Not just that they survived, but what specifically about a turtle makes it one of the most disaster-proof creatures evolution has ever produced. Because the answer is not what you'd expect, and it changes how you think about survival itself. Let's start with the extinction event most people know. 66 million years ago, a rock roughly 10 kilometers wide hit what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact released more energy than 1 billion nuclear bombs. The sky filled with debris. The sun disappeared for months, maybe years. Temperatures plummeted. Photosynthesis stopped. The food chain collapsed from the bottom up. Roughly 75% of all species on Earth went extinct, including every non-avian dinosaur. Turtles didn't, and the first reason why is almost embarrassingly simple. Turtles can go a very long time without eating. Some species can survive more than a year without food. Their metabolism is so slow, so deliberately throttled down, that in conditions where every other animal is starving to death, a turtle is just waiting. It doesn't need the food chain to be running. It can outlast the crisis on reserves alone. But that's only part of it. The deeper reason turtles survived the asteroid isn't just that they can fast. It's where they fast. Turtles in the aftermath of that impact weren't wandering around in the devastated landscape. They were buried in mud. They were sitting at the bottom of rivers and lakes. They were doing what turtles have always done in bad conditions, going somewhere dark, staying still, and waiting. That behavior has a name. It's called dormancy, and in turtles, it is one of the most sophisticated survival tools in the animal kingdom. When conditions get bad enough, too cold, too dry, not enough food, not enough oxygen, turtles can essentially pause themselves. Their heart rate drops to almost nothing. Some species take one breath every few hours. Their body temperature tracks the environment. Their cellular processes slow to a crawl. They are not quite dead and not quite alive. They are waiting. And here's what makes this remarkable. Turtles can do this in both directions. Cold dormancy, what most people know as hibernation, is called brumation in reptiles. But turtles can also enter a hot weather dormancy called estivation when conditions are too hot and dry. They can pause for heat. They can pause for cold. They can pause for drought. They can pause for nearly anything that makes the outside world temporarily uninhabitable. Most animals have one mode, survive or don't. Turtles have three, live, pause, resume, and that third option, resume, is the part that gets overlooked. Because dormancy only works if you can wake up intact on the other side. And turtles are extraordinarily good at this. Their cells have developed mechanisms to prevent damage during extended low oxygen states. They produce compounds that protect cell membranes from breaking down. Their brains are resistant to the kind of neural damage that kills most animals when oxygen drops. When a painted turtle spends 5 months under ice without breathing, it comes out in spring as functional as it went in. This is not common. This is extraordinary. Now let's talk about the shell. The shell is the thing everyone associates with turtles, and most people think of it the way they think of a helmet, armor that protects something soft inside. But that's not quite what it is. The shell is not something a turtle wears. The shell is the turtle. It is fused to the spine. It is fused to the rib cage. It is the skeleton, restructured over 50 million years of evolution into a fortress that the animal lives inside. The engineering is remarkable. The dome shape is not aesthetic, it is structural. A dome distributes force across its entire surface rather than concentrating it at a single point. The same principle is used in architecture, in bridges, in crash helmets. Evolution discovered it 200 million years before humans did. A turtle shell can withstand forces that would destroy almost any other biological structure of similar weight. But the shell does something more interesting than just resist force. It provides a completely sealed microenvironment. When a turtle pulls in and closes up, it creates a near-hermetic seal between itself and whatever is happening outside. Fire, toxic atmosphere, physical debris, the shell buys time. And in natural disasters, most survival is about exactly that. Enough time. Let's go further back. 252 million years ago, at the end of the Permian period, there was an extinction event so catastrophic it makes the asteroid look manageable. It is called the Great Dying. Volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia released enough carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide to acidify the oceans, collapse the ozone layer, and raise global temperatures by 10 degrees Celsius. It lasted roughly 60,000 years. 96% of all marine species went extinct. 70% of all terrestrial vertebrates went extinct. It is the closest life on Earth has ever come to simply ending. The ancestors of modern turtles survived it. They weren't turtles yet, the shell was still evolving. But the lineage that would become turtles made it through the worst extinction event in the history of complex life, and the traits that allowed that, the slow metabolism, the tolerance for low oxygen, the ability to go dormant, the tendency to live in and around water, were already present. This is the key insight about turtles: they didn't develop their survival tools in response to disasters. The disasters selected for traits that were already there. Slow metabolism was not an adaptation to mass extinction, it was just how turtles were built. But when the asteroid hit and the food chain collapsed, the animals with slow metabolisms were the ones still alive a year later. Evolution didn't plan this, it just kept the ones that worked. Now think about what turtles actually are, ecologically. They are not apex predators. They are not particularly fast. They are not intelligent in the way mammals are intelligent. They do not form social groups. They do not cooperate. They do not innovate. By almost every metric we use to define evolutionary success in complex animals, turtles are unremarkable. And yet here they are, 220 million years later. Because the traits that look like weakness in stable conditions, slowness, low energy consumption, withdrawal, passivity, become extraordinary strengths when the world breaks. The fastest animal in an ecosystem is the first to starve when there's nothing to eat. The most metabolically active creature dies first when the temperature crashes. The most socially dependent species collapses when its group disappears. The turtle just pulls in and waits. There's something almost philosophical about this. We tend to think of survival as a function of strength, speed, intelligence, adaptability in the active sense, the ability to change quickly and respond aggressively to new conditions. But turtles suggest another model: survival as endurance. Survival as the willingness to do nothing, to pause, to outlast. The word in biology for this is resilience. But turtles don't have resilience the way a rubber band has resilience, springing back to shape after being deformed. They have something more like irreducibility. They can't be reduced below a certain minimum, and that minimum is enough. Let's look at one more disaster, because it illustrates something specific. In 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted in Washington state. The eruption flattened 600 square kilometers of forest. It buried rivers under meters of ash and debris. It killed nearly everything in the blast zone instantly. Within a few years, researchers found western pond turtles returning to the area. Not new turtles that had migrated in from outside, turtles that had survived by being buried in the mud at the bottom of surviving water bodies during the eruption. The ash insulated the water enough that the temperature drop was survivable. The turtles went dormant. The eruption happened above them. They came back up. This is what 220 million years of practice looks like. And it raises a question that's worth sitting with. We are currently in what many scientists call the sixth mass extinction, a global collapse of biodiversity driven primarily by habitat destruction, climate change, pollution, and invasive species. Extinction rates are estimated to be 100 to 1,000 times higher than the background rate. Species that survived the asteroid, survived the Great Dying, survived volcanic winters and oxygen crashes and ice ages, are disappearing now, in decades, because of us, including turtles. More than half of the world's turtle species are currently threatened or endangered. Animals that outlasted the dinosaurs are being killed by fishing nets, by egg collection, by habitat loss, by being hit by cars. The irony is almost unbearable. The most disaster-proof creatures evolution ever produced, undone not by an asteroid or a supervolcano, but by a species that has been on this planet for roughly 300,000 years. Turtles survived 220 million years of the Earth trying to kill them. It took us about 200 to start finishing the job.